So the new AMD Ryzen 7000 desktop CPUs got released, as well as the 13th gen Intel Raptor Lake. Both of these have become hotter and more power hungry than ever before, and there's a few things to consider before choosing which to go for, as well as considering the previous gen CPUs if you're gaming. Okay, so the new Intel CPUs support DDR4 and 5 RAM, but the AMD 7000 only support DDR5 RAM, and you'll also need a more expensive motherboard to go with it as well. If you're just gaming and you're building a gaming PC like this one here that I made a few weeks ago, you should just go for the 5800X or the 5600X from AMD or something like that, because they're much cheaper than before because of the new stuff getting released. Like, the actual performance is really similar, and if you spend that extra money on the GPU, you'll actually get more FPS in games and you'll get much better performance. So I got this 5800X from Best Buy for $250 US. It's an 8-core CPU. So to get into the actual specs of this new stuff, there's 4 new CPUs, a 6-core Ryzen 5 7600, an 8-core Ryzen 7700, a 12-core Ryzen 9 7900X, and a 16-core 7950X. The difference between these and Intel's is that there are a few less cores, but they're all high performance cores, and they have clock speeds of 5.3 to 5.7 gigahertz depending on the model, and the 7950X is rated to use up to 170 watts, but we're probably going to see it go above that pretty often. Another strange feature this year is that the AMD has a different way of raising the clock speeds. It's much more aggressive this year. It maxes out the power consumption until it goes up to the 95-degree limit, slows it down. It might sound like it's too hot, but apparently according to AMD it's safe. And of course you can undervolt it and lower the temperature limit if you want to, but it seems to be very aggressive out of the box. This also means that you're going to be getting substantially different performance depending on your cooling. So if you're going to make an insane build with like a new 7950X, definitely go for liquid cooled, because you're going to get that maximum performance when you can cool it properly, and it's going to be able to use more wattage for a longer period of time compared to if you get an air-cooled solution. Okay, before I get into the 13th gen, leave a comment on what I could do to improve my videos. I'm taking all the feedback and using it to improve. And yeah, on to the Intel stuff. The i9 has 24 cores, 32 threads, and boosts up to 5.8 gigahertz. This looks like the highest end CPU out of the whole group here, but most of the cores, it has the most amount of cores and the highest boost speeds, although it probably will also have the highest power consumption, and we'll often see this CPU going up to 250 watts or more. The i7 has 16 cores, 24 threads, and 5.4 gigahertz boost speeds, and the i5 has 14 cores, 20 threads, and boosts up to 5.1 gigahertz. One thing to keep in mind is that all of these aren't the performance cores. The i9 has 16 performance cores, i7 has 8 performance cores, and the i5 has 6 performance cores. And the others have a much lower clock speed and like much lower performance overall, because they're just efficiency cores that are meant to do simple tasks without creating much heat and using much power. So all of these have Wi-Fi 6 and PCIe 5.0 and Thunderbolt 4 if that matters to you. The new chips also have much better overclocking capabilities, and Intel is actually trying to encourage the consumer to overclock their CPUs. The i9 is going to be able to go up to 252 watts according to Intel, so much more power consumption than the 7950X, which might be an issue for some people with smaller power supplies, but you can always upgrade those, and also upgrade your coolers if you're going for this one. So overall, the Intel stuff has much higher power consumption compared to the AMD stuff. And overall, all of these, like the AMD, the Intel, all of them consume more power than last year's. So the 13th gen Intel consumes more power than the 12th gen, and the new AMD stuff consumes more power than the AMD 5000. My recommendation is for people that are just making a gaming build, go for something that's older gen, like a Ryzen 5000 or a 12th gen Intel, because especially the AMD stuff on Amazon right now, there's like insane deals that you should probably go for, and spend that extra money on getting a better graphics card like a 3070 or a 3080 or maybe a 4080 if you're going for that. So in addition to that, if you're looking at the AMD CPUs, be aware of the DDR5 RAM that you'll need to buy, which is literally twice as expensive as DDR4 RAM, and you're also going to have to get a new motherboard. If you're considering either of the new CPUs, you'll need a really good cooler to keep up with cooling them, and also making sure that you get the maximum performance you can. And definitely consider liquid cooling. You're definitely going to get a lot more performance out of the new CPUs and push them to their limits for longer. So yeah, that's pretty much it for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.